If you have been lied to or manipulated before, you probably struggle with figuring out why it was so easy to get manipulated, to get lied to, or even to get taken advantage of. According to the National Library of Medicine, both men and women that have a history of emotional abuse through manipulation or through lies show lower levels of marital satisfaction. What if I told you that you can heal from emotional abuse, attract and maintain the relationship of your dreams all in 3 steps? In fact, I just helped one of my clients, May. May is an amazing accountant. She's so determined and so driven, has never met a goal at work that she cannot achieve. She actually just got awarded for consistently hitting her targets 10 years straight. The challenge May faced is she had been deeply hurt by a partner that had lied to her, manipulated her. This changed the way she saw relationships going forward. So not only was she skeptical about re-entering the dating field, she met this amazing guy and she just couldn't bring herself to fully commit to him. She was constantly on the lookout for the big lie. She'd find herself picking fights, pushing him away all the time. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how I helped May heal from her past, from the emotional abuse, from the manipulation, from the lies, and help her sustain her relationship. But first, what is emotional abuse? To explain this, I'm going to talk about the case of little Peter. Now, little Peter is a 2-year-old boy who was not born with the fear of rabbits, but came to fear them over time. So May was not born with insecurity. She was not born with an anxious attachment. She wasn't born fearful of relationships. No. She went through an experience that made her doubt herself and associate love with criticism, pain, or rejection. It was that consistent manipulation, that consistent gaslighting that left her isolated and confused. Before I became a coach or took the time to understand what emotional abuse is, I used to ask myself, how did I let that happen? How did I fall into the trap of believing that my love alone can heal his emotional wounds? We often find ourselves so fearful to let someone in because someone in our past made us feel unworthy, made us feel discardable. Can you imagine wanting to be loved unconditionally, but not fully being able to receive that love? That's emotional abuse at work. In fact, in the case of little Peter, he had to slowly unlearn his fear. So every survivor of emotional abuse, every survivor of manipulation, of cheating, of lying, must go through the healing process to regain their trust in not only others, but themselves. See, why is healing from emotional abuse going to help you attract and sustain the relationship of your dreams? Let's talk about it. See, Janina Fisher talks about how bad experiences create division on the inside. Well, part of us, part of you, is constantly stuck in survival mode. You constantly question what's real and what's not, where you're triggered by maybe safety and consistency because it might not feel real. Just like in this case study of little 2-year-old Peter, he did have an intense fear of rabbits. Emotional abuse survivors have learned to associate relationships with danger. Before I took the time to study what safety was, before I stopped making excuses for their behavior, before I stopped trying to fix people, I was trapped in the belief system that I was difficult to love and manipulation was the only love that I deserved. I had to learn that hurting somebody is a choice, that people have different definitions of love. I had to be my first friend. I had to be my first advocate. And I had to be my first place of safety. For many of you, this might be exactly what you need to break past emotional abuse and attract and maintain the relationship of your dreams. But not all of you. Some of you just need a little bit of extra support. I have great news. Attached to this video is a link where you can get a free coaching session. But for now, let's talk about how you can get over emotional abuse. See, healing from emotional abuse is not as hard as people make it out to be. You can actually do it in 3 simple steps. Step 1, erase the lies. This is a very, very important step because emotional abuse, it makes you question what's real and what's not. You get into the habit of constantly doubting yourself, constantly holding back, not trusting that what you see is what you see. Before I took the time to study why it was so hard to trust, before I became a coach, before I became a support system, I questioned my sanity because it was like I was misremembering everything. It got so bad, I had to speak to a mental health specialist, thinking I need to be locked up in a padded room somewhere. We fall into the trap of letting the people around us define our reality, how we should feel, or even if we remember a situation correctly. Can you imagine a world where you have the power to erase the lies? See, that Rachel was so convinced she was losing her mind. She locked herself away from human beings. She became so scared of connection. I had to learn how to recognize the patterns of manipulation. I had to learn how to write things down to remind myself that I'm not crazy. I was my first support system. I was my first friend, and I was my first sanctuary. Erasing the lies is separating the truth from any other confusion. Step 2. Now, find the key that has to do with taking back the power. Let me say that again. Find the key that has to do with taking back the power. If there was no bullet to fire, there'd be no trigger. Before I knew how much control I had over who I let into my life, before I took the time to figure out why I kept attracting liars and manipulators and cheaters, I felt so powerless. I was consistently crippled by anxiety, the feeling of powerlessness. It was so hard to speak to someone without knowing where the door was because I needed a quick escape. We fall into the habit of expecting everybody to take the shape of the person who hurt us in our past. We unconsciously put up walls to protect us from that unknown assailant, the person waiting in the shadows to make our deepest fear come true. You agree that constantly feeling like this can make it hard for you to form a connection with an amazing person? Do you agree that constantly feeling that you need to protect yourself can make it hard for you to form a connection with an amazing person? See, that Rachel was not open to letting somebody in. That version of me was on guard. She's ready to make sure that I don't have to go through that situation ever again. I had to learn that I don't have to live in constant fear or anxiety. I had to learn that it is okay to set good boundaries. And when somebody continuously shows you that your boundaries, that your needs don't matter, it's okay to put an end to that relationship. I was my first safety officer. I was my first friend. And I was my first safe space. Finding the key is focusing on healing the parts of you that incubate the manipulation, that incubate the lies, and incubate the cheating. How much easier would your life be if you could not fall for any manipulation, any gaslighting, or any love bombing? For many of you, this might be exactly what you need to break past the manipulation. But some of you need that extra support. So go ahead, click on the link. There's so many other ways we can work together. But now, let's move on to step 3. Now, step 3 is my favorite. Step 3 is rinse and replace what no longer has space. Now, before I started my healing journey, before I became an advocate for emotionally safe relationships, I would look at relationships that stood the test of time and jump to the conclusion, oh, they have it so easy. Look at how they still love and cherish and support each other after so long. Must be nice. We fall into the trap of expecting that good things come without having to put in work. You know, we just have to sit on the couch, eat chips all day if we want the body of our dreams. No. How different would your life be if you actually kept every promise you kept to yourself? If you actually took small steps every day towards the relationship of your dreams. Rinse and replace what no longer has space has to do with intentionally and consistently making the daily choice to pick your thoughts and pick the feelings that you choose to act on. Now, this has to come from a place of no perfectionism, but consistently training your mind and reclaiming yourself. If this video has helped you in any way, subscribe for more. I'm Coach Rachel, and I can't wait to connect with you again. Bye-bye.